Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, where we're going to review the many capabilities of Creo 6. My name is Rob Romanowski, and I'm joined today with Paul Dye, who is an applications engineer with PTC, and also Austin Baird, who is also an applications engineer, but works with us here at 3HTI. So what we want to do today is basically just go over what are the capabilities within Creo 6. It does a lot as a base package. The price is $24.30 for a base subscription, and there is a ton of functionality in this. I think the cost for a base package of Onshape is somewhere around $2,000, and it just boggles my mind that for a few $100s more, how much more you can do with Creo 6. I mean, this is really a tremendous product. So everybody's going to be on mute throughout the presentation, and if you have any questions, feel free to type those into the dashboard. Once again, the whole purpose is just for customers to understand what Creo 6 can do, because we get in a lot of conversations with people and they say, well, I wish I could do this, and our response is, well, you can. And they're like, really? Well, how much is that going to cost me? And the response is, it's not going to cost you anything because you can already do it with Creo 6. So that's the big reason why to have this webinar today. But we also invited people who are not customers, who are interested in Creo, to see exactly what it does, and then you can take that information to compare it to your current CAD system and just see how tremendous the software is. So with that, I'm going to make Paul Dye the presenter first, and change presenter. I got to do that. Oh, there you go. Paul's ready. I think, Paul, you have to unmute yourself.
Yep.
And we'll go first with Paul. Paul's going to review a few of the base functionalities in Creo, and we're going to have Austin go over the extensions, which were separate extensions that are now included in the base license of Creo. So, Paul, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Rob. And again, my name is Paul Dye. I'm with PTC. I do want to talk to everybody today a little bit about what's new really with Creo 6.0 and how we can work with it moving forwards. And so I do want to talk to just some of the challenges that we see some of our customers out in the industry today, what they're facing, and it tends to be around the blending and the merging of the digital world, which we're used to working in, and then we also have the physical world where our designs and our different processes are actually occurring. And there's a huge benefit to being able to transfer data between these two worlds, and a lot of smart companies are really starting to do this. Things like augmented reality, new simulation techniques, new ways of manufacturing, such as 3D printing, and finally, of course, our CAD software has to be able to keep up with these ever-changing processes and techniques. So that's what we're here to discuss today, is how Creo 6.0 can act as the seam between these different facets of the industry, and we can really start to unlock the potential in both the physical and digital worlds. And first, let's start with a personal favorite of mine, augmented reality. And so this is something that we've been refining over the past couple of years, and with Creo 6.0, we've made it even easier to work with. This is something that's right out of the box with Creo, and something that we can utilize today. And this begins with the ability to view our models. And so now for each user, we can have up to 10 models that can be published and stored. And so what that does is we're able to pull up our models and view them as an augmented reality experience on whatever compatible device that we're using. So you could have a tablet or a phone and just simply be able to view these in that context. We can view it by creating things like QR codes that are used for launching these experiences. And this also includes support for HoloLens or 3D eyewear. So if you have this hardware, this is now a very exciting way to view your models and things like design reviews and things of that nature. And with all these models and experiences, we definitely need a way to keep it all under control. And within Creo, you can set each model to be public or password protected, add multiple emails to share this out, and overall work and collaborate in a very clean and safe environment. So moving on, we've done a lot whenever it comes to usability and productivity and just general enhancements to base Creo in of itself. As we've been doing with past releases of Creo, we've been continuing to build out the functionality of the mini toolbar. So now this is available in feature creation and modification, and the way that it's been built out is very intelligent. So it works in context for whatever you happen to be doing. It really lessens the need to click around everywhere and find out what you need to get to. It's actually all built into the actions that we're taking. So we can see up on here that anytime that I make a move to click and get to a part, we can simply have that available to us. I'm getting quick and direct options that I need to use. And now let's talk about some of the big changes that we made around the model tree and how we navigate it. So active components are very clearly differentiated from other components, and everything else has been grayed out for us. We can also see that it's the same with insert mode, or if we want to work with a very particular part of the assembly, we have bars to show exactly where we're working. And we also have common filters on by default, so Creo actually knows exactly what settings that we like, and it will essentially auto-save those settings between sessions, so we still have all the same functionality as before. We're just able to remember all of that now and use it all the time. Here we've also made changes to our graphing capabilities. So for example, if we have a curvature analysis or any feature that creates a graph, we've improved the options and the controls that go along with it. And this includes better ways of setting up the graph, different gradients, colors, and overall in a much more modern interface. And it looks very clean. And when it comes to that user interface design, everything's been updated and has a really nice new look to it. So we can see, for example, here in the whole tab, things like type, profile, settings, everything looks clean and very easy to use. Also, a new feature here is access to help. So for different features, we can see a very quick summary of what that feature does. We can also get and read more information into it, which is very great for new users or even a feature that maybe you haven't used in a while. Get that information on it. Updates the sheet metal, mostly having to do with increased productivity. And so it's much more intuitive for things like creating walls, and this includes a lot of instant options. Works well with creating corners, building out seams, reliefs, and of course, as we're building all of this out, you can see right on the model, instant previews of exactly what we're building out. And we also have a new dashboard for merging walls, and again, working in this beautiful new interface. Even with the sheet metal, everything you do is going to look very clean and very easy to visualize. Volume sweep has some new uses, and this is something that we were very excited to release in Creo 5.0, and we've kept upon building on that. So this is where we're taking a solid model and taking it through a helical sweep to create things like cutting and grinding tools. What we've added is the ability to keep that helical tool path, or we've always displayed it with the tool, but now you're actually able to keep that path going forwards. And point projection is another ability that's new to Creo 6.0. So take something like a vertex, datum point, endpoint, and project it onto a planar surface or a datum plane or straight lines. This could potentially be very useful for defining certain references and exactly how they line up with your part. And for those of you in manufacturing, we have options around the drill tip angle. So hole options, we generally have a preset value of that tip for about a 118-degree angle. Well, some customers don't use that. So we've given the user the option to define that default value to whatever they happen to please. And then here we have more improvements to our model-based design in Creo, and primarily around the ability to take notes. So much like we did earlier with past releases of Creo, where we built out the ability to do dimensioning and tolerancing right on the model itself, we've also built out a specific dashboard for taking notes and putting the notes right on the model. And with different options for our fonts and our symbols, and basically bringing note-taking capabilities and those abilities and really modernizing it like we've done with the other annotations. We have a lot of built-out support for semantic definition and then increased flexibility with our annotation features. So we can take one set and then maybe move it to another feature, just really continuing to improve and overall kind of build upon our usability as much as possible. Here we now have the ability to get automatic notifications for any new maintenance releases. And so with a lot of new versions of Creo coming out, we're always looking to build upon and improve all the time. And sometimes it can be hard to keep up with all those changes. Well, now we have the option to keep our users up to date. And of course, there are some users who don't want to be consistently reminded, but we do give options to disable that as well. And when it comes to rendering, the Render Studio now has support for emissive appearances. And so what that means, if we have an object that's emitting a light, while it's able to then interact with itself and its surroundings. And so now we can take a component or a surface and build out some very cool, very realistic renders with this emissive lighting. And same thing with animations there. So you can take those and really animate them, make them look nice and clean, professional. And that's another capability that we have. Detailing. So this is something that's been highly requested and we really listened. And what we have is the option to take the model name and then when we're starting into something like a drawing, have it be the same name as the model. It really keeps everything organized and cuts out any confusion with file names. And again, if you don't want to do this, it's just a checkbox. So just keep it unchecked and go about it as you always have. A nice thing here also is the option to alter your dimension, backgrounds, and style. So in Creo, in the base, we picked settings that work for the majority of people, but if you want to change this for whatever reason, or your part colors, or just personal preference, you can simply go ahead and do that. I do want to take a quick note to talk about some of the abilities that we have for additive manufacturing and additive design within Creo. And so out of the box with Creo, we do have options and a lot of capabilities for additive manufacturing. So you have the ability to prepare files for 3D printing from both part or assembly mode, and also have connectivity with both GrabCAD Print and 3ds Print for creating files that we use on the printer. And on top of that, right out of the box, we have the ability to connect with specific printers. And so with Creo, we can send files directly to that printer with no need for any type of third-party application or system. And finally, we do have extensions for some advanced features for both latticing and metal printing, and really giving you the ability to go into whatever level of complexity that you want to get into. And now what I'd like to do is pass it back over to Rob and Austin to talk to some of our other capabilities within the base Creo package.
Cool. Thanks, Paul. Nicely done. So Austin, I'm going to pass you control. Give you the con.
Alrighty.
All right.
Can you see my screen there?
I can see your screen.
Great. Yeah, so Paul did a good job of highlighting the enhancements in Creo 6, Creo base as a whole. What I wanted to cover is functionality that's included in a lot of the entry-level license packages that we see today. So this is functionality that was extensions in the past, so additional cost items, but now you get a lot of this stuff included. So these are the ones I'll cover briefly: flexible modeling, design exploration, Creo Render Studio, and piping and cabling. So flexible modeling is an extension that allows us to do a lot of direct modeling capabilities. So going in, picking on geometry, moving it, manipulating it however we want, but really quickly and easily, and without much fuss or having to worry about features failing, anything like that. So this is really good for last minute design changes where I'm trying to edit something that might be a child to 100 different things, and who knows what it's gonna cause to fail up the tree. But with flexible modeling, I can just go ahead and make the change, move the feature that I need to, and be done with it. Also working with multi-CAD data. So with Creo's Unite technology, of course, we can bring in models from any sort of other third-party CAD system and be able to bring that in and edit that geometry directly. Also useful for simplifying models, getting rid of extraneous, super detailed portions of a model that I want to go take and run a simulation on. So, hopefully speed up that simulation time. But
this flexible modeling extension that is now included in the base license of Creo Parametrics, since I believe they put it into Creo 5. The two great things about it are the ability to work with multi-CAD data. You can bring in the Creo with Unite technology. It's the only software that you can bring in a file from another CAD system and work on it in Creo. It doesn't bring in the model tree, but the way, and we don't have, I don't want to get in the weeds too much about this right now. We can, give you more information about it, but basically the way that it reads the file, it doesn't look at it as dumb geometry. It can understand what the parent-child relationships are of the model itself. So you're able to work on a SOLIDWORKS file, a CATIA file, a Siemens file when you bring it into Creo. And it's the only software, Creo is the only software that can do that. And also simplifying models for simulation is incredible. It saves so much time in the modeling process. And this is the one extension that most of our customers are like, oh my gosh, I wish you would have hit me in the head with a brick a long time ago that I really understood how to use this. This is just tremendous. Sorry about that, Austin.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, no, this is absolutely, I would say the extension that, most of our customers have, but a lot of them aren't aware or don't realize it or don't realize the power of it. But, for example, I was working on a project last year where we had all these models, like SOLIDWORKS models from China or something. And without flexible modeling, we would not have been able to do anything. But we were able to bring the models in, recognize like holes, for example, and edit them however we needed. Really great extension here. But the common workflow would be to bring in our model here. Let me get the laser pointer going. There we go. So bring in our model, select on some geometry, and recognize it as a box or cut or what have you. Move on to modify that geometry in some way, and then even start to recognize patterns. So like bolt patterns or any sort of pattern that exists. It should Creo will be able to pick that up, recognize that, and then allow us to make edits to that pattern. But the key here is that common data model for direct and parametric modeling. So I can do both. So so even in my Creo models, if something's easier to do with flexible modeling, I can go ahead and do that and sort of mix and match there. So easy to move back and forth between direct modeling, parametric modeling. There we go. So again, we're able to recognize design intent from the model, recognize patterns, pick those up. Ability to parameterize imported geometry. So if I grab onto a hole here, I can then have the power to define diameter of that hole, which I wouldn't have had before. And the last point here, direct edits are stored in the history tree, so you can see that they come in as just another item in our model tree, which we can of course go back to edit or delete whatever we need to do. So again, some of the things that are difficult to do in a traditional sort of parametric CAD environment, late changes, changes to third-party CAD, all this stuff becomes pretty trivial, honestly, with flexible modeling. All right. So the next one I'll touch on here, design exploration. So design exploration is an extension that is useful at the front end of the design process when we're just working through ideas. So allows us to basically create these checkpoints as we're trying out different ideas. So maybe I want to see what this looks like. All right, I have that. Make a checkpoint, and now I want to go look at something else. So whatever I think of, I can just make and add as additional checkpoints, and then very easily, switch back and forth in between them to compare, contrast. So this sort of process without design exploration, if I was going through, 10, 20 different design iterations, I need to copy the models around to different folders, maybe repeatedly, erase not displayed or clear the in-session data. Because the models, of course, are going to be named the same. So, it can very, very quickly get out of hand. Of course, with design exploration, provides us a safe environment to explore these sort of things and rapidly go back and forth between our ideas. And then in the end, incorporate, basically choose our final design here and incorporate it into the design. Does this through this TMU file. That's the design exploration sort of file that gets created, and all this is saved to. And when we start a session, everything's backed up, and we can go back to it with the pre-modified checkpoint that automatically comes in. But just very, very quickly try out our different iterations and then compare and contrast them, including this graphical compare method that's on the screen here. But very useful in the early part of the design stage. So again, some of the things that design exploration allows us to do.
So as you can see with the box cutters, real quick, I mean, instead of creating several different files, which can make it more confusing as to which file is the correct file to use, and if you're using the wrong file, it creates a whole host of problems. But within Creo, there's checkpoints that you can have an unlimited amount of files of iterations of your design, so that if you want to change or modify it and create a new product that's an iteration of an existing product, you can. A lot easier than, oh, well, which file's which, and getting confused that way.
Right, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned that. That's probably the biggest thing, though, is when we want to come back to what we're deciding is the final design here. If we're talking about that folder structure, that could be hard to find or locate. Yeah, could be impossible to find, depending on how many iterations there are. But of course, with design exploration, everything is there in this sort of tree, branching tree that we can easily navigate. All right, so Creo Render Studio, Paul touched on this a little bit, but with Creo Render Studio, assuming we have a package that does have this Creo Render Studio license, we can create some pretty nice looking renderings. Of course, there are more advanced rendering licenses that are available, but this is what's included in some of these base packages. But powered by Keyshot with their real-time ray tracing, so as you're moving the view around, it's rendering constantly. But of course, engineers have uses for it, companies have uses for it, as far as advertisements or looking at different finishes, what have you, without having to create prototypes necessarily. But this has access to some appearance libraries, default render scenes and environments. And the big point here, of course, is that it integrates directly with Creo Parametric. So we were talking about design exploration. Well, I'll jump ahead here and then jump back, but we can use Creo Render Studio in combination with other Creo Parametric features such as design exploration. But as you see here, we can use this to create a design exploration session around our different renderings and different materials and finishes, and very quickly go back and forth and be able to view all of them.
So this Render Studio that's in Creo is basically powered by Keyshot. It has a lot of great capabilities. It's not as robust as a standalone license of Keyshot, but there's a lot you can do with it. And what I tell customers is, if you're looking to start rendering for your marketing department or for whomever else within your organization, these type of photorealistic files are going to be useful for. Start with Creo, and then you can look at Keyshot. I mean, because we're a reseller of Keyshot also. Then you can look at Keyshot and see if Keyshot makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, so as Rob said, you know, it gives you some stuff to start with, some appearances, some environments, what have you. But you know, very functional and can allow you to create some really nice looking renderings there. All right, last one I'll touch on here, piping and cabling. I think this one's fairly new that you know, I've never seen this included on some of these packages before, but now it is. So piping and cabling is what allows us to go from, say, a 2D schematic to the routing and the actual model, forward to the manufacturing documentation, and you know, necessary because this sort of stuff usually occurs late in the design process and usually takes, you know, a bit of time if you're not working with a tool like this. So pretty much in most cases go with like the first option that works, rather than, you know, really trying to iterate and get something that's truly optimal. So some of the capabilities that a designer might want into like this, so automatic creation of the 3D routes from the 2D, verification, rule checking, automated creation of the deliverables, like we mentioned. So for both cabling and piping, some pretty straightforward pick and place routing that can happen, and associated updates as you make changes. And with Creo Schematics Lite, which I'm pretty sure is free, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can create our schematics, which can then feed into the piping and cabling to create actual routings. And then with the addition of Creo harness manufacturing, that's what lets us go to HMX Lite lets us create some documentation very quickly, and with this additional extension, fully associated customizable list tables and runs. Yeah, but very, very powerful stuff here. Can automate a large part of the process.
It's basic for harness. For wire harnesses, it's basic. There is a wire harness extension, but I think it's amazing that this piping and cabling extension is included in the base license of Creo. I mean, it definitely gives you a lot of capabilities for piping and cabling. And then once again, with the harness manufacturing, you have basic features, but there's also an extension that is also included.
All right, but that's what I have.
Cool, good job, Austin. So we're doing good here, and I want to show my screen real quick. I'm trying to do two things at once. There we go. All right, cool. So trying to move this dashboard out of the way. So basically what we offer our customers is we want to add value. We want to help people. Because if you're using the software and you're modeling and you're happy with what you're doing and you're successful, then we're successful. And that's what we want to do. We want to add value to our customers and help them make the products that they build better, faster, and less expensive. So we provide for our customers 2 hours of desk side coaching. There's no charge for this. We'll basically come alongside you and help you understand how to use Creo better. Now, some people need training. They might need an intro course on Creo. Creo also comes with a e-learning library that's standard with the base license that you can go in and watch all kind of video and tutorials on how to do things. PTC has also just released a product for online training with Creo that is $2,000 annually, that you can have all these online training courses for $2,000. But there's some people that just need somebody to come alongside of them and say, hey, I want to do this. How do I do this better? And that's where this desk side coaching comes in. And we did this last year for a customer that came back and said, do you realize that over the course of the next 6 months, you saved me about 500 hours worth of work just by this little coaching session? So we're more than happy to do it just to help people become more efficient. So before we go, I want to ask the audience a couple of questions here. And here's the first question. Are you interested in getting a desk side coaching session? If you're not a customer, you can still answer. You can say yes, but I'm not a customer yet. We'd be more than happy to to help you with that. But if you are interested, we're more than happy to do that for you. So I'm going to leave this open for about 5 more seconds. Maybe a little longer because we're getting a few yeses. This is good. Excellent. Also, if you want to get in touch with me later and thought, you know what, maybe I should have done that, you could just reply to the email to contact me. Actually, this is the best way to contact me here. So what capabilities would you like to see more of in Creo? Now, I couldn't list all of them on this one question, so that's a 2-part question, and you can answer yes to more than one if you want to get more information on whatever it is: augmented reality capabilities, flexible modeling, the Creo Render Studio. We're more than happy to either set up a demo for you or give you whatever information that you want, what you need to know. We're basically here to help you. So I'm going to leave this open for about 5 more seconds and then go to part 2. And these were the last 2 that I couldn't fit on the other page. If you want more information or a demo on piping and cabling or the design exploration extension. Now, we were slated for a half an hour on this webinar, but what I'm going to do is, Paul, do you still have time? Paul might have to unmute. Paul is muted and he can't hear me. So anyway, that's going to conclude our webinar for today. I was going to have Paul review one more quick item with everybody, but I think, I don't know if he's experiencing difficulties. He is muted by the host. Now he's unmuted by the host. Can you hear me,
There
Paul?
we go. Yes, I can.
Sorry about that. So
No
I'm going to pass Paul control, and this is basically it's a free webinar, but now you get more of a free webinar. Creo has a new extension. It's a paid extension. It's called Creo Simulate Live. And for what this does, it's excellent as far as an upfront simulation while designing, while engineering. So the whole idea is you don't have to be an expert analyst to use this product. It's a very simple tool to help design better earlier in the stages of design. So I'm going to have Paul go through a couple slides, and hopefully this is of value also to you. So Paul, take it away.
Hey, thank you very much, Rob. And again, this is, yes, perfect. All right. So I do want to discuss just a little bit of background on some of the challenges that this tool addresses with the Creo Simulation Live. So in the traditional way, if you want to do simulation in the design process, you'd generally have to consult an expert or at least be very knowledgeable in analysis itself. And also, we wouldn't be working with the actual model. We'd probably have to use a simplified version that's defeatured, no small holes or rounds or any type of interferences. And as you might know, this process is very iterative, So every time you run the simulation, you need to go back into your design, make changes, and start the simulation over again. And this whole process just takes a very long time. And with Creo 6.0, we're introducing a brand new approach to this process, one that doesn't see simulation as the separate step in that process. So every engineer, every designer, throughout each step of the design process can start to make use of the capabilities of simulation. It's going to be fast, very easy, and this is all possible through the use of Creo Simulation Live. So what we've done is partner with ANSYS and use their Discovery Live engine directly in Creo to do simulation right on top of the model. So we're getting instantaneous analysis results as soon as we make changes in the model. So this is really directed at every engineer, not just that expert analyst. It's going to really further work towards simulation-driven design. And first and foremost with this tool, it's fast. So right now, simulation is seen as something that's done way later in the overall design process. What we want to do here is take the simulation capabilities and put them right on top of the model that we're working with. So this begins by defining our constraints, loads, and really starting to build out that analysis. And one of the big differences as opposed to traditional simulation processes, so there's no need to go through and defeature the model. Just go ahead, leave in all those small holes, rounds, and we can simply just apply our loads and constraints and simulate. And we can see basically as soon as we click the button, we're getting analysis results back. We can see them right on top of the model, and that's the difference here. So we aren't sending off to an expert and waiting days or sometimes hours to get results back. The results are right there, right now. And with that, you can continue to work towards your design, making changes, and using that feedback that we're getting to really make meaningful changes. So now whenever I go through here, I can see we're getting stress on a face, and we can add in and start to create features, create ribs to really see how stress values are affected. And so I can make changes right on the model, and as soon as I make those changes, I can see how the analysis is getting updated and no longer really waiting around to get those results back. And let me switch back into my slides. And so again, with that, this is really a game changer in the world of design, really the ability to apply loads and constraints onto the model and just simply know exactly whenever I go through and make changes exactly what that's doing. And so it's all very exciting and something that we're building out, really working actively towards with our PTC products. And initially it's going to be built out for structural and also modal and thermal modes of analysis. And we're going to be building upon these as we move further along into the future. And so that's really all I have to discuss in terms of Creo Simulation Live today. And so I'll pass it back over to Rob.
Very cool. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. That's going to conclude our webinar. If you have any questions or need anything, you can just respond to the emails that I've sent you, inviting you to the webinar, or for the reminders that said, hey, the webinar's in 1 hour. You can respond to me that way, or my email address, rromanowski@3hti.com. So Paul and Austin, thanks a lot for your help today. Thought you guys were tremendous. And I want to thank our audience and wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Take care, everybody.